The trial within a trial in the Senzo Meyiwa murder case is set to resume in the High Court in Pretoria this morning. Police officer Vusumuzi Mogane on Wednesday made some startling concessions. He admitted making a lengthy stop at an Alberton petrol station because he claimed he had car problems. But this is the spot where accused Ntanzi says he was tortured into making a confession. Ahead of this morning's proceedings, let's check in now with eNCA reporter Manqoba Mchunu about what can be expected. Manqoba, good morning. Let's start what happened yesterday with Sergeant Vusumuzi Mogane being grilled by the defense about his movements on the 18th and 19th of June 2020. Crucial days as far as the confession of accused number 2 is concerned. What came out of this cross-examination yesterday?
Well, very crucial days, Pretend, because this is a day just before Ntanzi had made his confession. He made his confession on the 19th of June in 2020. So the 18th is the day that he was booked out for over 17 hours. And there are questions as to why and what happened during those 17 hours when Ntanzi had been booked out. So we did hear from Vusumuzi Mogane explaining to court that, in fact, he had parked at a petrol station in Alberton. Coincidentally, this is also what the version of accused number 2, Ntanzi, seems to suggest that he was near a petrol station, and this is where the assault had taken place just hours before he made that confession. So he did explain that there was car issues that he had at the time. He says there was an issue with the brakes, there was also an issue with the oil, which seems to have been low at the time, and there was an issue with the tires as well. So he says they had to wait for a mechanic, and this is where the officers from EMPD, Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, also joined in. And of course, the version of accused number 2 is that these were the very officers that partook in that particular torture and assault that happened yesterday. But he did make some concessions, Pretend, as far as where he had stopped on that day. Take a listen.
And what is further confirming the version of accused number 2 is that there was a garage, there was a petrol station or a filling station. That is consistent with the version of accused number 2. Do you agree?
That is correct. There is a engine garage where we were.
From that time up to the time when I was about to take you on when you were leaving, but up to 0023, the only thing that you are disputing is that accused number 2 was not assaulted by the police. That's the only thing that you can dispute now. Do you agree?
I disagree that the accused was assaulted, my lord.
Manqoba, it seems like every day this trial within a trial is continuing. There's interesting twists and turns. Now I see the defense is being accused of tailoring the evidence. What's this all about?
Well, certainly, Pretend, and this is an accusation from Mogane himself during cross-examination. So there are two versions. I mean, there's a version that the defense has presented, Pretend, on two scenarios where accused number 2, Ntanzi, had been assaulted and tortured. So they seem to say this happened before he made that first confession at the Moroka police station before Colonel Solomon Rapadu. And they say on the 19th, first of all, near a garage in Alberton, this is where the first assault had taken place. They left the garage, and this is where the Metro Police joined. They went to an area that had a dumping site, and this is where accused number 2 was then assaulted at that particular point. He was poured with water and electrocuted, we hear. So they say that they then moved to another location, passing Baragwanath Hospital, where they picked up Colonel Solomon Rapadu, who took that confession as a peace officer, and then they went to another secluded area in Orlando where there was steel poles there, and this is where the investigating officer, Brigadier Bongani Gininda, also arrived, according to the version of accused number 2, and had given him prepared documents to sign. So he says he was also assaulted and tortured into making that particular confession. And what we heard yesterday, though, is the defense now seemingly suggesting that, in fact, the steel poles that they'd spoken about in the Orlando incident were on the route when they had left Alberton on that morning. So there seems to be a bit of a confusion there as to whether or not those steel poles were in Alberton, or is the defense trying to say now that they were not in Alberton, but rather not in Soweto, but in Alberton. And also when it comes to, that particular scenario of Orlando, there seems to be a suggestion now that it actually happened at the Moroka police station, which is what, is not what the defense had claimed prior to this. But perhaps let's take a listen to some of the evidence that came out of that.
My instruction from accused number 2 that on the same route you were driving after you have off-ramped from Hagelberg, sorry my lord, from N3. On that route, there is a dumping area on the right-hand side when you are facing Alberton. That was the time when he was taken out of the motor vehicle next to those steel tanks, where he was tortured with that electrocuted.
If I recall very well, Mr. Mngomezulu, you had alleged that we took him to the steel pipe in Soweto, Orlando, before we took him to the officer Rapadu, and Officer Geninda came, and now are you saying we took him to that steel pipe in Alberton?
Oh, interesting exchange there. So, Manqoba, what can we expect today?
Well, but then we're expecting, of course, to hear whether, firstly, the defense is going to get those documents, the other reports that it has requested. And this relates to the 20th as well as, the 22nd and the 24th of June in 2020, the day that Ntanzi appeared in court. And the 24th is when he made his second confession before Magistrate Vivian Cronje. So these are crucial, but they do not have those particular records because they say accused number 2 had been, or rather Mogane had been using a different car on that particular day. So the cross-examination halted yesterday while still awaiting those particular reports for those 2 days. But we do expect the state to clarify whether or not those are available, and if they are not available, then we're expecting possibly a new witness in the form of another detective that also investigated the Senzo Meyiwa case.
Thank you very much, Manqoba Mchunu. Well, we will be bringing you live, of course, that proceeding, bringing to you live after 10 o'clock as soon as Judge Rata Mukwatleng walks into the High Court in Pretoria for the continuation of this trial within a trial in the Senzo Meyiwa murder case.